This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by American Helix. The American Helix is a revolutionary new concept in smoking technology. Designed and manufactured by American glassblowers, this pipe is light years ahead of its time. Based on Bernoulli's principle, the shape of the pipe, along with an innovative intake system, creates a Venturi effect through precision micro holes in the chamber, which results in a slower burn that conserves tobacco and gives a smooth, refreshing experience, making the American Helix the smoothest hitting pipe on the market. For further info or to locate their products, you can find them online at AmericanHelix.com. That's AmericanHelix.com. This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by Mountain Glass Arts. For the month of August 2016, Mountain Glass is offering their Chinese color and clear rod and tubing at 40% off. Just put in the code CHINESE, that is CHINESE, at checkout. And for all you soft glass nerds, they're having their Effetre sale, 30% off rods, COE 104 sale. Just put in the code Effetre, that's EFFETRE, in checkout, and you'll receive 30% off. Any questions, comments, or concerns, just go to mountainglass.com. That's mountainglass.com. This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode number 123. This is Jay Michael, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in today. With 17 years of experience behind the torch, I am as excited as always to bring you conversations with artists, sharing their stories in hopes to inspire and entertain while helping you grow your business. And today is no exception. Today is a special episode featuring Germ, Jeremy Grant-Levine, coming on, Philadelphia-based glass artist and teacher. He has a current project that he is doing, which is one of the reasons we brought him on. It's his 1,000 Glass Cranes project, and we're super pumped to talk about that. We get into a lot of a conversation about his humble beginnings, his parents being artists and their influence in his life, his kind of spiritual Jewish background as well, and his traveling experiences, and just all around just why it is so important to take your time and be in the moment and focus on your work and finding your voice in your work and not trying to use someone else's voice. Even if other voices are for inspiration, eventually you want to find your own. So we definitely get into a lot of fun talk there. I hope you guys enjoyed our last one, talk with Mike Mason from Torch Talk. If you haven't checked that one out, definitely go back and check out our talk about that. We get into a lot of talk about taking classes and education. But yeah, so this is a lot of fun. Just got the phone with Germ now, and just fired up about the conversation. Had a lot of fun talking. And we will be posting updates. I'm going to bring him back on before the show. His show launches. It's a year process that he's doing. He's basically making 1,000 cranes in a year. And it's an ancient traditional philosophy that if you fold 1,000 canes in a year, you're granted good fortune, health, luck, and also or a wish. And he wants to do it in glass. And you can go on to his Instagram page and see what he's up to there for that, which is pretty amazing stuff. Definitely was excited to have him on. And yeah, so coming up soon also, the next episode after this, going to be putting out a whole episode about the creative process, my creative process that I go through, but also just the kind of idea of the general, basic concepts of creating something from nothing or from an idea or from someone else's idea in a sense. There's a lot you can get into and ways to go about it, but I think that through my experience and through talking with other artists and their experiences, we all kind of have the same philosophy. And I definitely think it's important, but the idea, too, is that to be able to go from the creation process and have a final product in the end that was actually what you visualized and what your voice is saying, you got to have a good foundation, hand skills, etc., to really make this come to fruition, which is why it's so important that as you're going through this process of learning your medium and your craft, that you make sure that what you're learning is actually good habits and good technique. A lot of times it's easy to not know that you're doing bad things until someone comes in and says, hey, man, you could do it this way, do it a little bit easier. So just some things to think about while you're listening to this show and this episode with Germ. And other than that, I'm going to rock and roll because I want you to listen to this and check it out. And this was fun because it was on his birthday as well, so enjoy it. And other than that, again, if you're new to the show or if you have not yet subscribed to, please go to iTunes. Go to the search engine. You can just put in Wise Guy Radio. It'll pop up and just hit subscribe. And while you're there, if you could also leave me a review as a written review and also give me a 5-star or however you feel we deserve on there as well. And that just helps with iTunes getting the show out to more of a broader audience. The more rankings, the more stars, the more activity that iTunes sees and their silly algorithms of technology. It begins to push the show up. And right now the show is actually in the top 100 of fine art podcasts, which is amazing. So thank you for your support and the downloads and for sharing the show with your friends and family. And just continue doing that. It's definitely, I love being here. It's a blessing to be able to sit here and do this on a weekly basis. I know I'm not always as consistent as I'd like to be, as things are moving forward now and things are also settling down in my life with the job and the business and everything else. The focus here now is getting stronger and stronger on my end. So look forward, more consistency, more interviews. This week that I have right now, I actually have 7 interviews lined up this week that we're going to be busting out, and I'm super excited about it. So definitely stay tuned for that. And other than that, we'll talk to you soon. Go to wiseguymedia.com. Go there and check it out. All of the podcast archives are there. Almost all of them. I still got to finish uploading the first 25, I believe. And you can go there and sign up for our newsletter to stay in touch. All those who are involved in our Secret Santa pendant trade, stay tuned for the next email blast where you'll be receiving your person's name that you'll be sending your pendant off to. And other than that, hope you enjoy. We'll talk to you next time on episode. It'll be 124, as this is 123. Love y'all. Take it easy. Enjoy this episode with Germ, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Peace. What's up, Jeremy? Welcome to the show, bro.
How you doing, man? It's
Pretty
good.
good.
To be here.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, I just got to start off and say happy birthday. I know this is probably going to be listened to by people for years and years to come, but officially it's your birthday while we're recording this, so thank you for taking time out of your birthday to come on the show.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hell yeah. We have lots to talk about today, including your newest big project. But before we go there, let's get into your humble beginnings, kind of your superhero story, and where you got started with the glass.
All right. Well, both my parents are artists, so I've just been always raised around it. You know, my mother's a stone sculptor. My dad is just sort of an all-around media opportunist, sculptor, painter, drawing, just any medium he picks up with, he seems to excel in. So I just always was raised around that stuff, going to galleries, going to museums, being encouraged to just like create and play with materials and stuff. So I feel like there was never any doubt that I was going to do anything but be an artist. It just, who knew what the medium was going to be?
Yeah.
And then growing up, you just start getting into, Grateful Dead, Fish, like that kind of culture, weed culture, going to shows. Bought my first pipe when I was like 16 years old from this little head shop down the street from my my high school in New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
At that time it was like you couldn't buy glass pipes anywhere, so it's kind of crazy that like I was able to get this little one-piece stand-up Sherlock, and I was just so enthralled with it, and kept going to shows, spent all weekend at a festival, hustling up enough money to go buy a marble, like that kind of shit.
Hell yeah.
And finally was like, okay, I need to learn how to do this. And this is like early 2000s, 01, 02. There's like very little information out there. Didn't know where to go, didn't know what to learn. My parents were nice enough to get me a hot shop class for my birthday at like a craft center. And that was enough information to realize that that's not how you make pipes. um, but I still didn't know how you make pipes. So then it was like I think it was like summer of 2002. I was at this festival called Berkfest up in Massachusetts. Some guy was selling one-hitters. I was like, hey, man, where'd you learn how to do this stuff? He's like, oh, I went to this community college in New Jersey called Salem. So that was the first time I heard about Salem. So then I went and checked it out, and I enrolled, and that was it. I started going to Salem. Did that, learned there, met such an amazing community of people there. Met this pipe maker, old school dude named Spandex. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of him. Andy Benowitz. Shout out to Andy Benowitz if you're out there.
Hell yeah.
Dude taught me so much in his basement. Him and his roommate Chris Rossinger were just like killing it. Like I had never seen anything like what these guys were doing. So they were nice enough to let me come and hang out just about every night in the basement, watch them while I was also learning scientific in school. Let's see, got into a little trouble while I was in school. Needed to get myself a job to look good for the judge. So my teacher at Salem ended up helping me out, getting me a job at a scientific factory in New Jersey called Glasstron.
Oh yeah.
So that was cool. Just like, hey, Judge, I'm going to school and I'm working in my field. Like,
yeah,
go easy on me.
Right.
So, did that and then ended up like on probation. So I couldn't really like make pipes for a living. So I worked in a few different scientific factories. And then that's what brought me to Philly. I ended up getting a job for this weapons contractor called Frederick's Company in Northeast Philly. That brought me to Philly. It was horrible, soul-sucking job. And, as soon as I was off probation, I got out of there, started working with a group of my friends. They were making pendants for Whole Foods, just cheap pendants by the hundreds.
Interesting.
So that sort of employed me and a couple friends. This is like post Pipe Dreams, and it was like shops weren't buying, pipes weren't necessarily the safest, most stable thing to make. So we were doing that. And then I just sort of always had like a million little side jobs to support the glass blowing,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've had many of those.
Oh yeah, bike messenger, Hebrew school teacher. I worked for this nonprofit called Birthright, which sends kids to Israel. I like led a couple trips for them. Did event planning for them. At one point I got certified in permaculture design, and I was like doing like workshops with kids, just like sort of just different things to sort of help support the glass blowing. Yeah,
I know what you mean. It seems like when we all also go get those side jobs, our glass picks up a little bit, and we're like, oh, we can just fuck this job. And then
exactly.
And then the orders go away, and then you have to go get another job.
Yeah. Yep, pretty much.
That's so
the nice thing too about when I was a bike messenger, what was nice was I had a studio in Philly right near the art museum, which is like very central. So like on slow days, I would be able to go to the studio, mess around, make a couple spoons, make a Sherlock, whatever, get a call, jump on my bike, go do the job. You know what I mean? So definitely, I was able to sort of like mix both those jobs together and kind of keep them both rolling.
Did you ever bring the glass with you and try to hustle it on your trips?
Nah, I mean, you're going in and out of the federal courthouse all day, City Hall.
Yeah, that ain't happening. Hey, Judge, you want a pipe?
Yeah, right?
That's too fucking funny. So what kind of stuff were you doing for the scientific stuff, like early on?
It depends. Like the first company I worked at, it's called Glasstron. We did a lot of like really sort of micro scale stuff. We're doing inkjet cartridges for like HP printers. We're doing like little tiny coil condensers, like like 2 mil tubing coils on the inside.
Wow.
It was pretty fun. I actually really enjoyed that job. It's just like kind of a small mom and pop factory though, so it's like they treated me really well, but they couldn't pay me very well. Um, and so I ended up going from there and moving on to Chem Glass, where I worked for a few months, which is sort of like the big mega corporate medical supply company. And then after that is when I got the job in Philly.
Nice.
Doing, they made all sorts of weird shit, landmine triggers, guidance, housings for missile guidance systems, vacuum bulbs, like all types of stuff. Lots of glass to metal seals, all sorts of stuff that I'll never use again.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
The exact opposite of it.
Right.
But it seems like a lot of the cats I've talked to that have that scientific background. I mean, it's like I see your work now, and I can see that the translation, in a sense, of that technical skill that you learned at that early on, at the very beginnings.
Well, it's funny with that. I've ended up having to spend a lot of years deprogramming myself from a lot of the stuff that I learned. Like, I feel like scientific glass, like, yes, there's a lot of technical skill and like cleanliness and stuff, but I feel like it puts a lot of limitations in your head on what boro is supposedly supposed to be able to do and not do.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yep.
So it took me years of just like watching people break these rules for me to finally just like deprogram myself, because I would get so hung up on this stuff, like, oh, boro can't do that, you can't do that, there can't be undercuts, you can't carve it, you can't, you know what I mean? Like all this sort of things that like scientific taught me. And then it's just like day after day after day, I'm seeing people just smash those rules left and right. And it just took me years to sort of like allow myself the freedom to like also break those rules,
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, like the dichotomy of our industry and the culture we have. It's like we are all rule breakers, and when you get that foundation of rules, it's hard to not want to break that rule, those rules in a sense, because that's like your foundation that you have. But like you're saying, because like for myself personally, like my foundation was production, and like I worked at Subway for 7 years, and that was learning the business and the production side of things. But we still did production. I mean, it was fucking 100 sandwiches an hour. That's production. But I took that idea into my glass to then have a distributor, and I did catalog work for like 13 years, and I'm just now where I'm 17 years into doing this, where I can finally feel like I can say fuck the production and just sit and really just focus on taking my time and, like you're saying, like break the rules, try things I've never done before. And I guess for myself, I broke rules for years and years and years because I was self-taught mostly. And now that the color is where it's at, there's still certain limitations we have in terms of like kiln cycles, or certain colors don't work well with others, viscosity and all this other weird shit. So I'm having to relearn some of this new color and the science behind it. But but I think our culture is definitely a bunch of anarchists in a sense,
totally.
So it's pretty fun. It's and like I know what you mean, man. Seeing like Salt and Coil and a lot of these cats that are, Voorhees, like all these, yourself too, like, you're talking like deep cuts in glass. Like, man, people freak out over that shit back in the day. Like, you can't do that. Like, fuck you. Yes, I can.
Yeah, exactly. Watching Z work, like she defies everything that boro should or shouldn't be able to do. It's incredible. You know?
Yeah. She was the first person I remember seeing her vag tubes, and I was like, who's this dude making these things? At first, and then but I was like, it was so crazy how detailed, and like you're saying, like how amazing the sculpture and the realism of it. And then I started doing research on her, and I was like, oh, she's an amazing artist and has this awesome scientific, special effects, art, makeup background, and like just totally right up my alley. Like, and I love her work. But it's
right,
man,
yeah. We all bring a little bit of our backgrounds into it, which is like you said with her with the special effects makeup, and we all sort of bring our life experience into it. Yeah,
I think, and that's what's fun. I think that kind of where we've all evolved now is we're all just taking these life lessons and skills that we have, and I mean, like we were talking pre-record here, how we're still kind of like these immigrants in the technology field, but like outside of technology when it comes to art and creation and sculpture and just using old skills we have, we're able to take it all now and make it happen and find our groove and our lines that we're doing.
Right.
It's pretty badass. So at one point when you got into the pipes, like where'd you really find, like you started finding your groove with that?
To damn, where did I start? I mean, I had studios with friends all around Philly, and then sort of just needed money, so I started working for this company. I don't think it exists anymore, called Name Brand Glass, doing production stuff for them, and then hit the road a lot. Me and JD Mapleston have been friends pretty much our entire careers. Me being out east, but him being out west. And he gave me the opportunity, I forget what year it was, maybe like '07 or '08, to come out to Spokane and get exposed to this whole new other community of pipe makers. And I ended up spending a lot of time out there in Spokane, Washington over a few years, learning and hanging out with JD and Brando and McDougal and a lot of the guys out there. And really just like, that's sort of where I unlearned a lot of the limitations that I learned in the scientific industry. Was like, I had to like physically be on the other side of the country from, from all of that stuff, and like just be with these guys who are all primarily self-taught as opposed to formally educated.
Yeah.
And man, that was like so important, so huge for me.
Yeah, I agree, man. And it's kind of fun, like looking at the West Coast versus East Coast, and like it's like my being down here in Florida for my whole life and my career-wise. Florida's had its own. I mean, we're like our own country, like kind of like Texas in a sense, even
Right.
like our own culture. And the glass culture here has only really started over like maybe like the last 5-ish years. We're like the whole Philly corner, like you guys have been just blowing it up for like the past 10 plus years. But like the West Coast has been like, they've been on top of their shit. And I'm like, how the fuck are these guys doing all this stuff? And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, Deppy comes out and he's like blowing everybody's minds. And then, you know, like all this shit up and down the coast out there. It's like, I wanted to go out there just to be around the influence of what was going on at the time. Cause like that movement was huge. But then I saw all you Philly hats going on. And I was like, man, I was so excited to see the Philly kids doing their thing, including yourself. But
man, coming up in Philly was such a blessing.
Oh yeah,
me.
bro.
Like just to have like Jag and Jop and Slinger and those guys really just setting this model of how it can be and how we can be professional and how you can present yourself in this way. You know, they just like, I feel like they're really on the forefront of just like taking it seriously, presenting themselves as artists and presenting the work in a new way, like more of a professional way, more like a gallery style, you know. And I feel like they were so far ahead of themselves. So it's just like, for me as a younger guy coming up behind them, it really gave me this model of how to act and how to present yourself, and like, yeah, put a button down shirt on once in a while, like
exactly.
Clean yourself up, present yourself well, write about your work, document your work. You know, I feel like those guys really sort of were on the forefront of like documenting work, taking nice photos, recording things, presenting them in book form or making nice websites, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that was a great model for me to see, and just, you know, the professionalism of like the early sort of Philly scene, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because it's a big influence in my work also. And part of the show is about to be a professional artist and not like the artistic entrepreneur kind of idea, just to have a line of work, you present yourself, your work presents you, you know, kind of thing. But like Jag and Bear Claw early on were like my two big influences in my work, and especially Jag with, like you're saying, like his museum quality style work that he was doing already back in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And then Bear Claw was on a different spectrum, but still it's a philosophical concept and a whole different idea in sculpture.
Right.
And, you know, but the whole Philly crew has come up in that, like you're saying, like we're a bunch of badasses. We're a bunch of rock star skateboarding, spray painting, graffiti, having fun cats. But we can go put a fucking show on and blow some minds and make a bunch of money and have a shit ton of fun while we're doing this. And it seems like the whole encompassing thing, like when I was saying I had Coil on, like really it's like we want to have a lot of fucking fun. If we're not going to have fun, why the hell are we doing this for?
Right. Yeah, so me and Coil, actually, we went to Salem together. We went to college together. And we both actually went into the scientific industry after school. And then I ended up getting out of the scientific industry before him. And then he hit me up one day. It was like, "Hey, I'm quitting my job. Whatever, I want to do this pipe thing." And I was on the verge of just setting up this studio in South Philly. And it was like, "Yo, just move out. Come on, let's do this." And it was just like that was really important for me. Like that studio, it's like me, Coil, Elbow, um, Beaker, Filthy Rich, and Glass Monkey, as a team, kind of like we were like this next generation of Philly pipe makers
Yeah.
after Jag, Jop, Sling, Hops.
Yeah.
So then it was like we were sort of building on that model that got set out for us and coming up as our group, you know.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Oh, Snick. I can't forget Snick.
Yeah,
Anyways.
that's killer. Yeah, and it's fun, man. It's amazing when you get into the studio environment like that. Like I've been in my own cave for like probably the first 10 years of my life, and then started sharing and renting space with my friends Josh and Dave, who have Zen Glass Studios here in town.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got into their studio space, it was the same way. It was like we all were just bouncing off ideas and collabing and working together. And then every once in a while, an artist would be in town or would move into town and would come rent space, and it would completely inspire and change all of our work, like overnight kind of thing. It was very weird. And just to be in that environment, it's huge. Like I'm all about people working in their own space and fine tuning their shit. But to be able to go to and visit studios and work in that environment, it's the creative space like that. It's so important for your work to be able to have that influence and inspiration.
Oh, absolutely. Some of the most important lessons I've ever learned was on the road, just going studio to studio. Again, going back to JD, he taught me that road game. He taught me, just all about traveling and how to be a good guest and how to, just how to present yourself and, how to network on the road and collaborate and learn from people and, sort of add what you know. And that was huge in me just becoming who I am and learning skills was like, schooling, man, I'd say in the end, like what I learned at Salem is like 5% of who I am, if not less. It was like everything that I've learned from this community and learned from each other and learned in different people's studios and on the road is like way more major. Like, I hear from young glassblowers sometimes like, oh, it'd be so cool to go to school, this and that. It's just like, yeah, but this community has more to teach you, I think, than any sort of formal training has to teach you.
Yeah, man, I completely agree, 100%. For sure, because I know, like, when I got started, my buddy Mark, who was one of my apprentices early on, I actually talked about it with the last episode. He cut his finger off, like at the very beginning of our apprenticeship, working at a wood manufacturing. They made chairs and shit, but he cut his finger off on a bandsaw, and he spent that year off rehabbing, just studying books and researching and buying like every fucking Draconis color he could get his hands on that he still has like hundreds of pounds of he's hanging onto, and like all kind of crazy shit. But he was really all about like, why are you going to go to college for? Just take that money and go pay for a class, go study this with this artist, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, nah, fuck that. Because I ended up going to school and getting my EMT certification. I was going to go become a firefighter and all this other shit. But, and I passed life. But now where I'm at, I definitely agree with that philosophy. I think it's so important that there's so much educational space available now. As long as you go and get the right educational space. There's also a lot of idiots out there that say I can teach, and they're teaching bad habits and the wrong techniques just because they want to make money or be a teacher. Well, I don't know what the fucking deal is.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who's in that situation, it's like, look at the work of the person who's trying to teach you and decide based on that, Yeah,
exactly.
If the quality of the work doesn't add up, then obviously the quality of the information probably doesn't add up.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. Absolutely, dude. So I guess in terms of the teaching space, I'm always curious myself because I'm starting now doing this podcast. I'm really getting into the educational space myself, and I'm actually I'm creating some online courses I'm launching in October, and I have a family, I have wife and kids and stuff. So for me to travel, it isn't always as easy. Like I'm always telling Rashawn, like how envious I am of him at times that he just gets up and goes when he can. Because I'd like to have that opportunity myself eventually. So in your space, when you're teaching and you're doing a teaching tour in a sense, have you done that before? Have you gone like from studio to studio?
I love teaching classes. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily do a teaching tour, but like, I teach a couple classes a year. I generally do one class at the Borough School a year, and then a few others around the country.
So when you're getting set up for those, do you reach out to those places to say, hey, I'm interested in this, or do they actually reach out to you and say, hey, we want to bring you in?
It's a little of both.
Okay.
And then it gets to this point too where, like, there's only so many teaching studios in the country. So then you end up falling into this circuit.
Yeah.
And people will either reach out to me for to teach classes, or I'll reach out to them. I've spent the past few years kind of experimenting with my teaching style and figuring out some different ways I like to teach. And it started off as like a very sort of direct, like, technical class. I call it lamp working bullshit, advanced basics for intermediate glassblowers.
Nice.
And it's a very it's technical base, like, ring seals, hand making joints, encalmos, lip wraps, blah blah blah, all this technique stuff, which is great. Making a mini tube, but then it got to this point where it was like, out of all of these classes, mostly what I would see would be a lot of derivative work coming out of it, which is fine, and that's what you should expect when you're teaching. But I just started sort of like asking myself questions about, like, what I'm teaching, how I'm teaching, what I want as a teacher, and it's like, well, anyone can take a class from anybody and learn how to make a bong, So, like, what do I offer that's different? Why would someone want to take a class with me in particular? So the past few classes I've been teaching, I've been transitioning more into like teaching my creative process, and just sort of like, and I still cover all those points within the class, like all the technical stuff, but it's more about like how I develop my ideas and come to the ideas, to where, like, this last class that I taught at the Borough School, I actually took the class the first day on a tour of the Seattle Art Museum, because most of my process is actually derived from using museums and galleries as like reference tools. So I ended up taking this entire class, which must have been quite a sight to all the other museum goers, toured them around the museum, sort of brought everyone into my creative process, how I take notes in a museum, and then how I like sort of boil my notes down into an idea, and then created a project over that weekend based on things that I observed at the museum on this tour. So I feel like that's sort of the direction I've been wanting to move in my teaching. And then it gives me insights personally into my own creative process too,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you're bringing this up, man, because I'm actually about to do an episode on that whole idea of the creative process, because I'm in the same boat. Like, I've been really trying to, like I said, I'm getting my mindset out of the whole production thing. And I work over at Disney, and we still do production. I make Olaf from Frozen, and I've made over 900 of these little fucking snowmen in the past 2.5 years there. But the creative process to begin that production is an amazing opportunity and moment when you have like this, like you're saying, like you go study some stuff, and then you do some sketches, and you get like a kind of this little ball going and figure some shit out, and then you got to figure out, okay, where do I start from this process to get from A to Z, and then you got to figure out the process to A to Z, and then you got to fine tune that process until you finally get this thing that you have at the very end, that this is the final result that you're actually looking for. And it might take you a month, 6 months, a year of whatever experimentation, or a couple of days, to really fine-tune the process as you go along from A to Z, to finally you have this thing like, oh, fuck, that's the voice I was looking for, that I was trying to say.
Right, and that's only if your hand skills are even up to it.
Exactly,
like,
yep.
I think glass is like such a stupid way to express yourself.
Yeah, dude, it's so fucked up, right?
It's like, I don't know why we're all doing this.
It's like building a fire sculpture. Like, hey, look at this. I made this cool thing out of fire. Doesn't make any fucking sense.
It took me 10 years just to get to the point where like my hands will listen to my brain.
Yeah. I know, dude. It's so crazy. It's kind of funny you say that, man. The other night I was coming home from, I commute like an hour and a half one way to work, and I was coming home the other night, and I was eating a snack, and I had like a peanut stuck on my tooth, and I usually drive with my right hand, just my hand on the steering wheel, and this is completely off topic, but this is just a fucked up thing, and I decided to use my left hand to steer with as my main hand, and go to pick this nut out of my tooth. But for some reason, my brain thought my left hand was doing it. So my left hand on the steering wheel jerked my steering wheel. Like, I'm doing like 80 miles an hour on the fucking interstate. And my left hand jerked my steering wheel. And I went across all 3 lanes of fucking traffic into the far right lane in like a matter of like a split second. Like, thank God there was nobody on the road, because I would have probably died and killed 25 people in the process.
Oh man, I just listened to this podcast about like the whole Toyota like sudden acceleration thing.
Yeah, I drove a Prius too.
Yeah, and like it all came down to that, where it's like it's basically operator error, but your brain is so convinced that it's doing the right thing when it's doing the wrong thing that you just can't like correct it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yep. Yeah, it's like the old fucks that go to hit their brake and they hit the gas and they drive through a restaurant in the parking lot.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
But yeah, man. But if you don't have that foundation to begin with, and a strong foundation with good habits and all the other shit, you know, it's amazing. You cannot get to that point to where you get to where, you know, we're talking about being able to make this creative process happen. You got to learn how to blow a ball and make stringers and blah, blah, blah. There's so much more there.
Right. And that, I think in a way, like, you know, I might have been a little harsh on the whole scientific industry at the beginning of this interview, but like it did give me that base where it's like, okay, just stop thinking about art for a second and just make 1,000 side seals, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, man, because I was, whenever I teach myself but something new, it's always like, okay, make it 100 times. And I make them make that 100 fucking times, because it's like by number 20-ish, you got it figured out. And then you're like, oh, cool, I can do this forever. And then number 25, it fucks up and you go 10 steps backwards. But it takes about 85 times to get the muscle memory and the coordination. And so by 100, you've got 10 that look really fucking good and consistent.
Yeah, I always talk about this in my classes, how I'm intrigued with the like the ninja training aspect of glass blowing. You know, it's like I can tell you how I do it, and I can show you how I do it, and I can draw it out on the board, but until you know, do it 1,000 times, until you're balancing up on top of that pole or meditating under that waterfall, you're never going to get it. You know?
Yep.
It's like you got to just, you know, it's like, sure, I can tell you until I'm blue in the face how to do something, and it'll never click for you until your hands and your muscles and everything just do it so many times that it becomes natural.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny you say that. Part of my introduction to glass blowing classes I teach, I give my students punties to bring home, so that when they're sitting on the couch watching TV, they can sit there and practice rotation and keep their arms level and try different techniques of just rotating the glass, overhand, underhand, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Different things like that.
I used to do that too when I first started. I would take like a blow handle and a piece of rod, and with a Sharpie, I would draw a line on both of them. And then I'd put the rod inside the blow handle and just try to rotate it and keep those lines together so they wouldn't move.
That's a great idea. Hell yeah, I'm going to use that.
You know, that was such a good way to train your hands.
Yeah, that's killer. That's an awesome idea. Yeah, and I think too, like, you know, even just working with different diameters, you have different speeds, different thicknesses, and you got to rotate them at different speeds, but still keep that shit. And you know, especially when you're doing like line work or in calmos, you know, it's so imperative to make yourself become a lathe and keep your hands rotating at that same speed.
Oh man, love them or hate them, wigwags will teach you so much about everything else about glass blowing.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, just like make and stack reversal balls for a year or two, and you're going to be so much of a better glass blower. Yeah, in all sorts of other aspects.
Yeah, and doing that for a year or two is why I don't do them anymore much.
Oh man, I went back to do. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do wigwags like a couple months ago. I'm gonna bring it back, and I made a couple balls. I was like, you know what, fuck this.
Yeah, exactly. I have one of my shops. They've been an awesome shop, but they have my old catalog, which I forgot they had. And he's like, yeah, man, we're going through your catalog, and I'm like, catalog? What do you mean? So they sent me an order, and it was like bunch of old wrapping rigs, Sherlock bubs and hammer bubs and double bubblers, like all the shit I used to make. That I was actually excited to do it, because it's now that my skills are so much better now. I was like, okay, let's see what kind of perspective I can have in these guys. But there's a couple of the in the order that were like I do like a black, like a Chinese black spoon with a wigwag in the head kind of bullshit, you know. So those are like the last.
Probably like not nearly enough money, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that too, and the fact that they're the last ones I've been putting them off, because I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do this. I've been going through my scraps of shit, seeing if I have any old reballs laying around, you know, kind of thing.
Hey man, you're a better man than me, sucking up your pride and actually doing it though.
Yeah, man. It's I'm still learning to say no to certain situations, but these are one of my good stores that I've been keeping up with for years. So.
Right.
And they have like six locations, so they're a cool place to
Man, that's it right there,
get locked
though.
in.
Like, that's a point that to focus on. It's like, be good to the people who are good to you coming up.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
like all those stores that, like, I mean, there's stores like for me, like say Primal in Pennsylvania, for instance, who like when I was coming up, man, they would definitely buy stuff for me that they knew they could probably only sell for what they bought it for me, you know?
Hmm.
And it's just like those, stores like that, those are the stores that you always got to be good to because they always look out. There's always those stores that look out for the local guys coming up, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then especially these days, the ones that are still around, that have been around for 10, 15 years, that have survived all the horse shit and the FBI and DEA breaking their doors down, and they're still there helping us out. You know,
Right.
it's amazing. It's so cool. So yeah, man, to kind of move forward, I definitely want to discuss your newest project going on, and I definitely dig your line of work and how you look at the idea of doing projects and getting inspired. Because myself personally, I'm in the same boat. Like I love the creative process. I love putting together projects and themed ideas and stuff. And just going through your bio and seeing your past projects it's pretty badass, especially the Eastern philosophy kind of inspiration. Because for me, that's a huge inspiration in my work too. And
Yeah.
like getting into like the Bhagavad Gita and just like your whole Thousand Crane thing you're doing now. And I
Yeah, well,
I told my wife
so
about it, and I was like, she's like, oh my god, that's fucking amazing. And she's an art teacher, so she's like, she's an elementary art teacher, so
right.
she's like
Oh, that's what's up.
all about it. Yeah, man. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so
dude. So tell us about it.
I don't know, like I was saying, my parents are artists, so that's like big shoes to live up to. And they work on this incredible stuff. My dad is a very spiritual person. Raised me to be a spiritual person. He was always involved in our synagogue growing up, but then he always had this sort of Eastern style philosophy side to him. Are you familiar with the term Jubu?
Oh yeah.
It's like Jewish Buddhists,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
So like he was definitely like in that Jubu vein, so
Hell
when
yeah.
I was a kid, I was always reading that kind of stuff. He introduced me like The Jew and the Lotus and like all these other books. Um, so that was definitely a big influence on me. This this past year or so, I've just sort of been getting a little frustrated with the overall lack of content I've been seeing in the pipe scene. I feel like it's a beautiful thing that everybody's making a living right now and that there's money to be made. But I think that there used to be more of a freedom of experimentation and content going on in the past that's not as much there right now. So I just sort of wanted to start exploring those themes. And my life has been going through, on a personal level, some pretty drastic changes over the past year. Um, Ended an 8-year relationship, so that's a whole thing. Just my so my personal life was a little bit in turmoil. My work life wasn't necessarily fulfilling me as much. Just making the same kind of tubes, just pattern work, focusing on that, just wasn't fulfilling me. So at the beginning of this year, I started working on this series with my shopmate Trevi Metal,
Who's a
called Tools for
badass. Oh,
Enlightenment.
sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but dude,
Oh,
Trevor,
he's a total badass.
bro, when I mean, I'm all about like Sagan coming in and all the guys that are doing the Dremel, work. But then when he came in and I started seeing his work outside of his glass that he's working with, and then seeing the collabs he was doing, it's just like, I want to work with this guy. Like the concept just alone is fucking awesome. So to hear that you guys, are shopmates.
Yeah,
Killer.
so he, I started working on this sort of, it started on this basic idea that I think a lot of pipe makers are on, where like, oh, these are ritual objects, they're ritual tools. Communal smoking is an ancient ritual, this and that, so kind of then looking at these different objects from different cultures that are focused on ritual, and I got very into the Vajra and the Ganta, which are these Buddhist and Hindu objects, and they represent the different aspects of enlightenment, the destruction of ignorance, all this stuff, where like smoking in a way is like this modern, ancient and modern ritual of like destroying ignorance and sharing with people and whatever. So we created these objects, and then as I'm making these objects, I'm starting to realize that it's not as much of an external thing, this like, oh, a commentary on ritualized smoking. What I'm starting to realize was it was for me personally, I was lacking safe and sacred space in my life at that time. And I was basically creating these small shrines and these small sacred spaces for myself. So I had mentioned this class that I taught out in Seattle. During that class, I ended up creating this whole shrine all out of glass, a cabinet with working doors, completely glass, and that's what it was. It wasn't necessarily had to do with creating a glass cabinet. It had to do with creating sacred and safe space for myself.
Interesting.
So that idea sort of then rolled into, I don't know. So I've been folding origami too since I was a little kid. I've always done it. It's just like, I find it very soothing. It puts my mind at ease. I'll find myself sometimes at the bar, like I cut up dollar bills and like make origami cranes out of them. Almost unconsciously, my hands just know how to make them at this point. I've made so many thousands of paper cranes in my lifetime. And again, I was searching for this balance that I needed in my life because my life was in such flux. So I made a glass origami crane. And it just sort of started as simply as that. Just wanted to make this crane. And I've never consciously, in my lifetime, I've folded over 1,000 paper cranes, but I've never gone for, there's this, all right, let's rewind a little.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's this legend called Senbazuru, and it's this idea in Japanese culture of folding 1,000 paper cranes in a year. And depending on what legend you go by, you're either granted a wish or you're granted good health or good fortune, so I've never done that, but I've always been intrigued by it, and like over the course of my life, I've definitely folded 1,000 cranes. So anyways, I make this one glass one and I post it on the internet, and somebody sort of jokingly is just like, oh, well, are you going to make 1,000 of them?
Game on.
It's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do that.
That's amazing, dude. It's fucking awesome.
And it just seemed to work into this whole, like, I'm just searching for the balance right now in my life, and I'm searching for other things. And, so then that idea sort of snowballed into this, like, okay, well then how the fuck am I going to be able to focus on one project for an entire year, support myself, and make this all happen? So then that's where the Kickstarter idea came in, and then this idea just started developing where it's like, okay, I'm going to make 1,000 cranes. I want to display them all at once. Like I love large scale installation art. I'm very into the idea of transforming spaces, and like, I love when an artist can take a gallery space and just turn it into something else and just like create this whole environment of whatever they're trying to say. So like in my head, I was thinking like, oh, if I have 1,000 of these things, it's just like I can transform a gallery space with light and color and just like do so much with these repeating objects. So then that sort of became, it all wrapped into this like creating of space for myself and creating sacred space and creating communal space. So then, started talking to my friends about the ideas, talking to my shop mates, talking to Teresina, who's the curator at Ruckus Gallery, and like everybody seemed like really excited about this idea, and it's like every time someone supports your idea or like is like, yeah, that's a great idea, you're just like, you know what, this is a great idea. I got to figure out a way to do this, So then it was like, well, how am I going to fund it? How am I going to live? How am I going to afford the materials? How am I going to do all this stuff? And one of my best friends, Kat, she just moved back to Philly from LA, and she was working in the fashion industry for years in LA. So she had a lot of experience project managing, and she also had run several successful Kickstarter campaigns for different fashion lines that she's done. Shout out threadriot.com. Shout out avocado season. Shout out loud legs.
Hell yeah.
So she just like really like got the ball rolling. It was like, I'm going to help you. We're going to make this happen. You know, we're going to do a Kickstarter. We're going to figure out how to pre-sell these cranes, you know, figure out how to get people to support the project and just be part of it. You know, so then the past few months, me and her have been working on it. She has done the majority of the work so far. Like, it's incredible, her skill set, making the website, getting it organized, setting up just simple stuff like setting up an email account, setting up an Instagram, setting up a website, getting the Kickstarter going, creating videos, creating content, sitting me down and making sure that we're on the same page, and create a calendar and a social media strategy and all this other stuff that like I'm not necessarily the greatest at.
Man, I need to cap my life.
Yeah, right? So it's been a really interesting process going through it all, and then like, you know, trying to present it to this community. And you know, I've been having some really good feedback. You know, we got 36 more days on the campaign at this point, and we're about 25% funded. Yeah, we're just going to keep plugging away. We got some ideas for new video content coming out in the next few weeks. We're going to start plugging it to art blogs, see if any of them will pick it up. You know, some more like get a little more mainstream support. Because the other idea behind this for me was like to bridge those worlds. Like, I love this community and I love everything about it, and I feel so much support from this community. But this project, I feel like, goes beyond the pipe community and can actually bridge that gap and hopefully get people within the pipe making and collecting community interested in other artworks, and then vice versa, and that it could reach out beyond the pipe making community and get people in sort of the mainstream world looking at flame working and looking what we're doing, you know. And I feel like something on this scale is a good like bridging point for that.
Yeah, dude, it's huge. I think it's a fantastic idea, and
know,
it's cool with our collectors in our industry. Like, they're all about collecting glass, whatever it is, and you know, from their favorite artists or whatever. But like you're saying, the outside world of art and the fine art industry, like the Mickelsons and some of those cats have influenced them somewhat, but they're still really heavy in our community.
Yeah. So it's been nice. Like, so far, I feel like at 25% funded, that's like this nice base of support from our community and our friends and everything, you know. And now that's going to hopefully help boost it up and help me spread the word. You know, it's like the kind of thing too where I feel like a kid who's been collecting pipes and maybe, you know, whatever, like his parents aren't necessarily on board with it. They could be like, hey, look at this. This is an artist that I'm into. He makes pipes, but he's working on this project. Mom, check this out. Or, yo, show your grandma, your aunt, or something that like, you know, and then your dad can bring it to work and show this campaign to their friend. You know, it's just like, it's got some reach that I think is a little less taboo in a way, but then is like, because of who I am and what my body of work is, it's like it's always connected back to what I've always done, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it kind of like it legitimizes you being a glass artist to a community outside of the pipe industry.
Right. And that's, you know, I just want to be able to diversify. I want to be able to pursue what I want to pursue, whether it's in the pipe game or in the art world. It's just like, I just wanted to work on something larger. Like, I love pipes, and I love how like it's a small personal object, you know, but it's very limiting in scale. And flame working in general is very limited by scale.
Yeah.
So like the idea of being able to repeat an object 1,000 times and then take all of those 1,000 objects and construct a larger sculpture with all of those objects is really intriguing to me.
Yeah, man, I gotta come see it. I'm gonna be taking a field trip for sure.
Yeah, man, it should be fun. Should everything go as planned, it'll be fall of 2017 will be when the installation happens.
Okay. Hell yeah. So when did your official first crane, like in terms of for this project, like when did you start the countdown for the year?
Well, so the idea originally was to start it on my birthday, which is today,
Mm-hmm.
and then it would be like my year, 100% my year. But just sort of how it goes with the Kickstarter and making everything perfect and getting the campaign running. I wanted to launch this Kickstarter in like June, so it would end around now. But whatever, it's like things got pushed back, time frames got pushed back, the video took a lot longer to perfect. I'm terrible in front of the camera, so like Kat had to do some very creative editing to make me look halfway cool. And so it just took longer to launch. So I'm not really starting the project itself until the Kickstarter's funded.
Cool.
Because I can't afford to do it unless I have this backing. So let's see, the campaign goes till the end of September. So then the year for me will begin in beginning of October. And then that's about it. From October on, once this thing's funded, I really won't have any time for an entire year to make anything but cranes.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, it's sort of, I've had a few friends hit me up like, bro, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, we're at this point where like pipe making is so profitable, and to consciously step back, seems strange to people. And it's kind of strange to me, but
Dude, I think it's going to change your life though. Like, and I think also it's going to inspire the community to do this kind of stuff. Because I mean, I agree. Like, the money right now is so crazy, and it seems, and I don't want to say people are money hungry, but it seems like that's like the ultimate goal right now is like, sure, create art and have fun with it, but really, like, it seems like the ultimate goal is to go and sell your piece for $10,000 fucking dollars. Where you're at, you're like, fuck that. I'm gonna make this creation. Spend a year. I mean, dude, a year is a long. I know it's not a long time in a lifespan, but it's still a long fucking time.
I mean, it's going to be a complete 100% lifestyle shift for me to do this. Like, I figured out the numbers. You guys can go to my website or my Kickstarter and see a pie chart of, my minimum funding goal is $80,000 to make this happen. But after materials, taxes, Kickstarter fees, administrative fees, everything else, I'm basically left with $22,000 to live on for an entire year.
Yeah.
13,000 of that is my rent. So
rice and beans, man. You'd be literally living like a Buddhist doing this.
You know what I mean? So exactly, it's like this going to take this like crazy lifestyle shift to even survive this year, let alone make it happen. And like, I feel like I need it. There's something about, for me at least, the social media world, and that doesn't encourage a healthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for me, when I'm playing into this character, this hype machine, or trying to like do this, it's like, trying to put this whatever out there, it doesn't necessarily bring out things in myself that I like. There's this sort of like drive towards excess and ego that I just can't help but fall into,
Yeah.
And I don't like that. And it's just like I end up finding myself sort of cannibalizing my personal time with my loved ones to use towards like social media currency, when it's just like, no, you know what, fuck that, I'm at the beach with my friends, I don't want my phone here, I don't want to snap this, I don't want to,
Yeah, I
it's
completely agree, bro. I totally. Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's this pursuit for this balance that I'm lacking right now, and that this pace, this travel pace, the road game, teaching, demos, trade shows, all this stuff is just like this, it just doesn't lead towards a balanced lifestyle.
Yeah. Now you
So
get
I
to
feel
go,
like
yeah.
this is a swing in extremely the opposite direction. Um, I don't know. It's like a personal experiment. It's a social experiment. It's a artistic experiment. You know, it's an experiment in crowdfunding art and alternate revenue streams. You know,
Dude,
there's a lot of layers to this.
man, yeah, but it's a huge jump off the cliff for you. I mean, just in general, like,
Huge.
you
It's
know.
terrifying.
Yeah, I can imagine. I bet.
It's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, if I
Um,
was to be like, "Hey, honey," to my wife that I was going to do something like this, she'd tell me I was fucking crazy. She's like, "Oh, great idea, but yeah, I can't support us for the next year."
right? Yeah. So, you know, I had one of my friends call me the other day, like, you know, what are you doing, man? Like, I don't get it. You know, I started to describe it to him. He's like, oh, so this is like some sort of like Buddha monk Shaolin kung fu training shit. It's like, yeah, kinda,
Yeah,
you know?
pretty much. Yeah, man, like Pulp Fiction style, or not Pulp Fiction, but like Kill Bill 2.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, get your ass.
Pai Mei and shit.
Yeah,
I need my
dude.
Pai Mei.
Yeah, fuck yeah, bro. You'd be in your monastery punching holes in wood all day.
Right.
So how long is the process to make one crane?
They take too long right now.
I'm sure.
So basically, the way I've figured it out is I need to make 5 a day, 5 days a week, and that will allow me to have weekends and like a few weeks of sort of flex time, vacation time
Yeah.
within my year. Right now, they take me about an hour and a half, so that's a full work day. So then, like, I need to get them a little faster to give myself some leeway for breakage and things like that,
Yeah.
which I think I can get them down. Like, I've rushed through them in under an hour before. So I think I can get the process down to hopefully average about an hour.
Right.
But I burn myself a lot when I rush.
Well, yeah, but it goes against what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying,
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like total kills it.
You know, and then I've had some people contact me talking about like, oh, well, if you do components, if you pre-make all the wings, if you pre-make all this stuff, like you can get it faster. And it's like, for me, I feel like it defeats the purpose of the actual process,
Yeah.
where like when you fold a paper crane, you do it beginning to end.
Yep.
You know, it's like one single sheet of paper becomes this object. So I'm taking all these little rods and creating one object, but I feel like just to honor the process and to honor the intentions of the project, I need to make every crane beginning to end.
Yep, exactly. Because in my mind, I have an engineering brain, so when it comes to production, I could tell you how you could do this and make them in 15 minutes, but it defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do.
Right, exactly. It's like there again, like we were saying, there's so many layers to it, and it's like there's this personal layer that, you know, people necessarily won't see, but like it's very important to me. It's very important to the process of it all.
Yeah, man. Then you come out, you're gonna be enlightened. You'll be the first enlightened glassblower in the world.
Or committed, one of these.
Yeah, right.
Just gonna be completely nonverbal at my opening.
You'll be in the corners talking to yourself.
Who's that guy? Oh, that's the artist. Really?
Yeah, he's a quote unquote artist.
Yikes.
Fuck yeah, dude. So do you have like a kind of a vision after this is over? Or is it just like kind of just you have no fucking idea?
I mean, I have ideas of other projects I want to do after this. I feel like it's going to be really important for me to keep a journal and keep sketchbooks, because I feel like during this whole thing, it's like my mind's going to be pretty open, and like I'm hopefully going to be developing new ideas all the time. So it's going to be very important for me to keep a sketchbook and keep a journal so I don't lose these ideas, so then I can go back and start pursuing them when the project's over. I don't know. I sort of want to apply to do. I have these ideas for these projects based on like ancient architecture that I want to do. I was in Israel at the beginning of this year. I was invited to teach over there with Gianni Toso, which was amazing.
Yeah,
just
bet.
like one of the craziest experiences of my life. And while I was over there, it's just like there's this amazing like juxtaposition of ancient and modern architecture. Like you walk around Jerusalem and it's like you see this 5,000-year-old like archaeological excavation, this 2,000-year-old city where people still live, and then like a mega freeway and like a Prada store, like
God, that's strange.
all in like one view, and you're just like, it's just like crazy. So I don't know, I just have all these ideas based on those layers. I want to apply after this project's done. I want to apply to do a residency over there at Bezalel University to try to work on some of these ideas. So that's like future stuff, And I'm hoping that this could be a springboard into doing more things like that.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see like if as the success as this happens, if other museums would want to have you bring this show to their space. I mean, I couldn't imagine the fucking logistics to ship all that stuff, but
oh man, that's half the reason. I mean, it was like, where am I going to do this? It's like, well, I don't want to move 1,000 cranes much further than like 2nd Street. So we're going to do it in Philly.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all.
And then also the beautiful thing about this with the Kickstarter, it's like the community's buying into it, and people are purchasing a crane. So then once this installation comes down, all these cranes go to new homes.
Yeah,
and it's just like this larger thing then gets disseminated amongst the community and amongst the people who supported it.
Yeah, it's neat, dude. You ought to do like some kind of geographical map of some sort to show like from your home base and then where they all go to.
Damn, you're just making more work for Kat.
Well, just think about it, because over at Epcot at Disney, where I work, we have Spaceship Earth, which is the ball that's there. They have at Epcot, and it's actually a ride inside there, and it's all about the technology and communication of our evolution of our history of human beings. And at the very end, they take your picture at the beginning of it, and at the very end, you walk into this complex space, and there's a big fucking map of the world, and they ask you at the very beginning like what your language is and where you're from, and then they show your little face on there, and then it just drops you into your space, and it shows all over the world little white dots where everybody that came that day lives around the world. It's fascinating.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to see it. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how, I don't know. It'd be a lot of work, but
yeah, right.
It'd be pretty sweet. But yeah, man, I can see you taking this whole idea, just go so many different areas with it. I mean, besides just doing the cranes, like, have you ever seen that documentary, The Art of the Fold?
Or Between the Fold?
Between the Fold, yeah. Excuse me, yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy who folds DNA. Like what?
Dude,
mind blowing.
I walked away from that I've seen it so many times now, but I was so inspired just from the idea of what they come up with. Yeah, to be able to like drop some kind of something into your system that then can unfold itself and help you in the long run. It's like,
right? Oh man, that documentary is super inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, how many people know the airbag is like origami? You know what I mean? Like,
right?
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, I think it's a good place for us to take a quick break to thank our sponsors, and then we will move forward and get into Crashing the Kiln.
Cool.
All right, man. This segment of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by Zen Dude Fitness. Lose 10 pounds this month by joining the Zen Dude Fitness 4-week jump rope fat loss challenge. Brandon and Dan will take you on a guided journey towards becoming the best you. Get fit, have fun, and find new ways to eat healthy while still enjoying the sweeter side of life. Just takes 20 to 30 minutes a day and no gym required. For more info and to sign up for the free 4-week challenge, go to wiseguymedia.com/ZenDudeFitness. That's wiseguymedia.com/ZenDudeFitness. All right, quick break. We're back. So, yeah, man, the Crash and the Kiln round consists of 7 questions now, and they're all fun to answer. If you want to give me a 30 to 60-second answer, and you can expound upon them as well, which mostly happens. And the first question I always like to ask is if there is any living glass artist you have not yet worked with, who is it and why?
Any living glass artist that I haven't worked with I want to work with?
Yeah, you want to work with, yeah. I should forgot that part of the question.
Damn, there are so many. I don't know, man. I feel like I guess the one that pops to mind first would be Scott Deppie, just because, like ever since the beginning of my career, his work has been so inspiring to me. Like back in the day, those crazy pieces he was making with the little chip stacks and the chains and doing all this like psychedelic color stuff that I'd never seen before. It's just like that guy has always been 10 years ahead of the curve at all times,
Yeah, I think he's an alien. I'm still convinced he's some kind of extraterrestrial being of some sort.
Oh, absolutely. And like you hang out with that guy, and he's just like full of so much knowledge and so much love, and just like, oh, he's just such an incredible human being that I would just love to work with him sometime.
Yeah, me too. I think all of us.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So, if you could describe the sound of glass cracking in one word, what is it?
Oh man,
And it could be an audio sound or a actually
the
emotional
sound
noise.
of glass cracking.
Yeah, whether it's physical or an emotional response sound.
Non-attachment.
Yeah, perfect, dude. Hell yeah. That was Steve Sizelove's answer, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think as we get older and learn our medium, it goes from fuck to, oh well, on to the next one.
Right. Well, oh man, like glassblowing and Zen and Buddhism have so much to do with each other. You know, like I feel like I am. I was an angry kid. I was angry in my early 20s. You know, I was always fired up, ready to start fights I couldn't win. You know.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like glass has taught me so much about just peace and acceptance and non-attachment, and just like, you know, glass has just made me such a better person and such a more understanding person and willing to sort of like go with the flow and not, you know, I've always been one to fight against the stream, you know?
Yep.
And it's just like once in a while you got to surrender to the stream.
Yeah, man, I am in the same fucking boat, and I've always loved the idea of to take the glass philosophy into life and having to be on center. And if you're not on center with your glass, your shit doesn't work. If you're not on center in your life, your shit doesn't work. So it's all encompassing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we're definitely blessed to have the opportunity to experience that in a medium that people are like, oh my God, I could do that. I'm like, really? Turn my torch on first.
Yeah.
Oh shit. So let's see. What are your top 5 favorite colors in glass?
Top 5 favorite colors. Cobalt, pomegranate, amber purple. Damn, these are all old colors.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, dude. I love old stuff.
NS yellow, and what do we need? One more?
Yep.
I don't know. Blue caramel, because it's versatile as fuck.
Cool.
All right.
Hell yeah. So what is your worst injury in the studio?
Worst injury in the studio. Man, I've had so much more fun injuries outside the studio. My worst injury in the studio is probably back when I worked at Chem Glass, and I was snap cutting 3 mil rod, and I honestly have no idea what the fuck happened. But next thing I know, I look down and there's a piece of 3 mil rod sort of embedded in the base of my middle finger, going down into almost into my palm.
Oh my God.
And I just turned to the shout out Bob Russell, dude who worked in the bench next to me. He's like, Bob, is this bad? He just looks at me. He's just like, yeah, it's bad. Sit down. I'll get somebody.
Oh my God.
And they threw me in one of the Chem Glass vans, and basically like they didn't bring me to the hospital. They brought me almost to like some mafia doctor style thing, like in someone's house. He had like a little. They stitched me up. And,
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so that was probably my worst glass blowing injury. When I was at Salem, also, this one wasn't terrible, but I was like, again, snap cutting tubing, standard wall. The tube ends up shattering in my hands, and like I get all this glass in my palm. I'm bleeding all over the place, and like I go to the hospital, and the lady at triage is like giving me shit. She's like, "Were you out breaking windows?" It's like, "Yeah, lady, I was like palming windows. Come on."
Oh my God, what a jackass.
Just stitch me up.
God. Yeah, they're like, well, you're a glass blower. What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You're a crackhead?
Right.
Yeah, fucking people. Yeah, man, that's crazy. Have you noticed any long-term issues from when you shove that rod down your hand like that?
No, just a little scar at the base of my middle finger, and that's about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like missed everything vital. It just went right into like the pad, you know?
Yeah, damn.
Super lucky.
Yeah, sounds like it. Jesus. So, do you have any glass blowing themed tattoos?
I have one big glass pipe on. Actually, I guess I have a couple glass themed tattoos. I got a big glass whimsy, which is like these glass pipes that were made in the 1800s. I did a whole series based on them. So actually, one of my good friends, we grew up together. His name's George Perm. Forest to Shore Tattoo, Stratford, Connecticut. I traded him. Made him the pipe that he tattooed on me.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. And then like everybody at my studio, we all have Crushmore tattoos named our studio. So we all got that. And then just recently I got it's not like a total glassblowing related tattoo, but our motto is always safety third, I feel like, in this glass industry. So I got a pineapple with a dagger through it and it says safety third. So.
Oh, it's so funny, dude, because like at Disney it's all the safe D thing, and it's like we have like our 5 rules of safe D. And, you know, it's like watching both ways before you cross the street, like all this simple bullshit stuff. But it's like, it's so funny that you're saying that, because that's like embedded in my brain as the number one most important thing is safety first. Right?
Nah, safety third.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I've caught things on fire in the shop, man. I can't even, there's been so many fucked up things I've done. If people knew what goes on behind the scenes at Disney, they would shit their pants.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's fun.
I'm sure that goes with anywhere.
Yeah, totally. And my last and final question is always a fun one. If you're stranded on an island, and it could be any island of your choice, fantasy island, full of naked chicks, condos, deserted, whatever you want it to be, and had a glass studio on it, and only supplied your gases, your kiln, and your torch, and you had to make something in order to survive, what 5 items would you bring?
Damn, 5 items, so tools and materials?
Yep, and you could do a whole pallet of something if you need to. You know, make it simple for yourself.
Let's see. I need case of 6 mil. Case of 6 mil, my jacks, my diamond shears, fuck, 12-7 blow handles. Damn it. And I need silver and cobalt. That's 6. We'll go cobalt.
Hell yeah, but it's, and I don't know if I might start including this answer in it, but you're missing one vital important thing that you need to be able to see.
Oh, fuck, didymiums.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right. So
everybody
fuck
forgets
the
that.
diamond shears. I need just my jacks. Jacks, 6 mil, didymiums, cobalt, blow handles.
Hell
all
yeah.
right.
It's funny, dude. It's like the one thing we all forget, because I think we're so used to wearing sunglasses or just our glasses all the time. You know, it's like it's just part of our body now.
Right. It's just like your second eyes or whatever.
Yeah. It's my trick question there. So, all right,
well,
dude.
You got me.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think I might need to start including that in my list of things that are available for you to have there already.
Right. It's like gas, oxygen, torch, glasses. What else do you need?
Yeah, exactly. I had a couple cats like, yeah, man, I need a bong. And like Coil was like, yeah, I need a G5 so I can just fly the fuck out of there. Like, great answer, dude.
That is a great answer.
And that's totally Coil too, you know. It's like I was not expecting anything less. It was pretty funny shit. So, all right, brother. Well, before we let you get the fuck out of here, if you want to give us any parting piece of advice, and then I'll have all the links to all your Instagram pages, the Thousand Crane website, the whole 9 yards, and the Kickstarter, so everybody can go on there and find out. And real quick, if you wanted to give us just a price point on if you wanted to actually purchase one of the cranes for your Kickstarter thing.
Yeah, the cranes are $400 a piece. There's also T-shirts and hat pins at $25 donations, sticker packs $12, and doing 5 packs of cranes plus a T-shirt and a pin for $1,800.
Sweet.
So any words of advice? It's just be yourself. Make work that you're proud of. You know, just always make work that you're proud of. Make what you want to see in the world. You know, don't make what other people want to see in the world. You know, just stick to your vision, your own personal vision.
Hell yeah. Well said, dude. Good shit.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks a lot. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, likewise, man. And again, man, happy fucking birthday, bro. It's again, thank you for taking the birthday time out to do this, and hope you're gonna feel better as the day goes on.
Yeah. Things are good. I'm gonna head to the studio now, and then we're all going out to get a little Brazilian steakhouse action tonight. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing pictures online. As we leave our phones at home because we're at the beach.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right, man.
Fuck yeah, brother.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, man. Take care of yourself, and we'll be in touch.
All right, you too.
All
Later.
Right, peace. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed our conversation with Germ. Jeremy Grant-Levine is a badass out there at Mount Crushmore up in Philly. And definitely go check him out online. You can go to thousandcranes.com. You can find him on Instagram. You can search Germ Glass. His name, Jeremy Grant-Levine, will come up. Also, you can find him on Facebook, same name. And again, all the show notes, links, what have you, will be all there for you. And go to wiseguymedia.com/123 for his episode. And we'll see you next time on the Wise Guy Radio Show. Take care. Love you. Peace. This episode is also brought to you by C-Cube Co. C-Cube now creates a wide range of specialty and one-of-a-kind artistic glassware, items such as hand-blown wine crafts, insulated coffee mugs, pint glasses, and custom piggy banks that you can have personalized with imprinting, logos, and color accents that are available. Just go to C-Cube Co., that's SEACUBECO.com for more information. That's CCubeCo.com. This episode is also brought to you by The Flow magazine. Since its inception, the focus of The Flow has been to provide a bond among members of the lampworking community. This has been accomplished by developing relationships with the finest artists and sharing their techniques with you through in-depth, step-by-step tutorials. In every issue, you can enjoy great content with the hottest artists and cutting-edge techniques using the latest industry products. These features, along with the continuation of the Women in Glass edition, Glasscraft Emerging Artist Awards, inspiring gallery showcases, dynamic general interest articles, as well as health and safety information, make The Flow the leading international lampworking journal. For more information or to subscribe to The Flow, go to theflowmagazine.com. That's theflowmagazine.com. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show. If you have any questions, comments, or remarks, please leave them in the show notes page area where it says comments. We'll see you soon. Have a wise night.